The Find X6 Pro is finally out, and of course I've been waiting for the last 3 weeks or so to be able to share with you guys my experience of using this device. OPPO had the opportunity, or gave me the opportunity, to be able to experience this device in Spain, in Malaga, and we had the opportunity to take this on some amazing scenery, and this is why I want to talk to you guys about why I'm really liking this device from OPPO. This is literally the best cameras that OPPO has ever put on a device. So, without further ado, this is TK and this is the Find X6 Pro from OPPO. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So in front of us is the entire package for the Find X6 Pro. This is obviously the glass with the vegan leather, and of course it does include a case which also includes the vegan leather, which is really nice because I always see, you know, these clear cases that you get with a device, but when you get to this level, I think OPPO is really pulling out all the stops. We have the 100-watt charging brick here. That is essentially the Chinese variant of it, as this device is currently only available in China. It is, but luckily enough in the US, this actually works just the same for us, and it does actually charge at 100 watts. A USB-A to USB-C cable works perfectly fine, and of course we have the box. We'll notice here is obviously OPPO Find X6 Pro. This is the Pro edition. It is still working with Hasselblad, of course featuring the Mari Silicon X, obviously the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. A lot of the specifications are obviously some of the best experiences on the Android marketplace right now, specifically when it comes down to this camera stack. Okay, so first we need to talk about this design. The design absolutely screams quality, and this is going to be specifically talking about the vegan leather one. So there's going to be 3 options for the Find X6 and 3 options for the Find X6 Pro. The vegan leather option is only available on the 6 Pro, and as you can see here, that dual tone experience works absolutely fantastic. We have powered by Mari Silicon X, obviously that co-processor from OPPO. Hasselblad collaboration, of course, still there, and I think this is really referencing or influencing the design on the vegan leather design here. That makes it look very much like an old classic DSLR camera where you get that leather with the metal and the experience kind of looking amazing. And of course we have that nice little orange dot reminding us again of Hasselblad in here present, and we have actually kind of like a nice little kind of dial kind of going on around here. It doesn't turn, but one thing to keep in mind, this device, because of the 1-inch sensor and the other cameras that we have in the back, does definitely have a bump on the back. But one thing good about it is it's centered in the back, which makes it very nice and very good to use. The case, as I mentioned to you guys, does have that nice little vegan leather matching exactly how the back on the device looks. It's the exact same color, same tone. The only difference is that the OPPO logo is not embroidered, or I guess covered in silver here, where here you definitely see the embroidering for it, or at least the imprint, but it does not have it there. And of course the top is plastic, not glass the way we have it. Looks great, works great, and provides us a very similar experience. It is open on the sides, which allows us to actually still feel the buttons that we have in here. Volume rocker on the left, and of course on the right we have the accented green button for the power button that we have in here. At the top we have the top firing speaker, the IR blaster for TV. Obviously this has a built-in remote, and of course the top microphone. On the bottom, we have basically access to the SIM tray, supporting the dual SIM trays 5G connectivity, which surprisingly does actually work in the US, very much so, at least on T-Mobile for me. A microphone, USB-C power, USB-C 3.1 with the ability of using the UFS 4.0 storage in here to transfer the data as fast as we can. And of course, last but not least, is the bottom firing speaker. One thing to mention before we go too far is that the earpiece that we have in here is separate from the top speaker, and one of the other things is that they've incorporated also some technologies to allow the reduction of sound leakage whenever you're on a phone call. If you've ever had this experience standing next to somebody and you're able to basically practically listen to them talking on the other side because the volume is a little bit high, this actually has some built-in mechanism to provide us better shielding so that the person standing next to us can't necessarily listen to the entire conversation as if they're inside, or as if they're actually talking on the phone. But let's go ahead and start talking about the actual display. We have a 6.82-inch display. This is a QHD resolution display running at 120 frames per second. And one of the big things about this is that you've heard about devices that go up to maybe 1500 nits or maybe even 2000 nits. This device not only shatters that, but at peak brightness can go all the way up to 2500 nits, making this one of the most visible and usable devices in outdoor experiences on the market today. So this is one of the biggest things about this display. Not only is it HDR10, HDR10+, but also gives us the ability of getting some of the best, brightest displays on the market. Now, keep in mind this is based on auto configuration. It will boost itself up to that, but it is one of the best options that we have in there, and I really like that. The camera that we have on the front is a 32 megapixel camera. It's an IMX709. It's an RGBW, basically a sensor that gives us the ability of using it in a more of a, like around a 21 millimeter equivalent focal length. And you're going to hear that specifically when we start talking about the cameras here, is that they're literally providing us more of a lens experience than it is necessarily just basically a 32 megapixel camera. One thing to mention though, that on the front, the maximum resolution for video is going to be 1080p resolution, similar to some of the other OPPO devices, which pretty much kind of points us to say that you really need to live and use with the cameras on the back. Normally I say camera, not necessarily cameras, like there's a main camera. These three cameras work so well together, but they also work so great in providing us different shooting capabilities that I really feel that the camera stack on the back needs to be focused on specifically. We're going to start off with the cameras on the back, and as I mentioned, triple 50 megapixel cameras. The wide camera lens is going to be the IMX989. That's going to be the 1-inch sensor that we've seen before. We've heard before, not we've seen on this device. This is the first time OPPO has ever used it. It's going to have a 23 millimeter equivalent lens focal length in there, and that's one of the biggest things. And also, of course, providing us a lossless zoom, and that's going to be very important at 2x. Although we have a telephoto lens that jumps into the 3x, and we'll talk about that, the main camera sensor can jump into 2x without losing any quality. And that's a big thing because a lot of times we do lose some quality jumping into it. Now, the ultra-wide and the telephoto, or the basically periscope telephoto lens that we have, are both going to be an IMX890. That's going to be similar to both. Both are going to feature OIS, and the ultra-wide is going to be running in at about 15 millimeters, so definitely a wide lens. And of course, when you go into the periscope, we're going to buy basically 65 millimeter equivalent lens. So it's a big thing, and of course, this is going to give us that provide the ability of using a 3x optical zoom, which in my opinion, and this is going to sound really weird, that 3x lens that we have here, the telescope lens, is going to give you some of the best portrait shots that you're going to be able to get on this device. On top of the fact, obviously, the main sensor has that natural bokeh. That 3x 50 megapixel that we have in here definitely is one of the stars that I love in here. And it, of course, complemented with the other lenses on the back. We have wireless charging for a 5,000 milliampere battery that's built into the back of this device. And of course, the ability of charging it wired at 100 watts or 50 watt wireless charging on the back of this device. Even with the vegan leather, we still have an IP68 rating on it. Last but not least, obviously, for the specification, again, this is the China model right now. PGEM10 is the model number. 5,000, as I mentioned to you guys, 16 gigs of internal, 16 gigs of RAM, expanded with up to additional 4 I put in there. Mari Silicon X is going to be there as a coprocessor. As far as the camera stack, again, 32 on the front, 50-50-50 on the back, and of course, 6.82-inch display, QHD, 120 frames per second. Now, all of this obviously is going to be powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 from Qualcomm, and this model does have 512 gigs of storage, and I'll say that between the three models that are released, there's going to be basically a 12 gig variation, a 12 gig of RAM, 256 storage. That's going to be on the black and green, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, on the leather, you're able to go all the way up to 16,512 or 16,256 is going to be some of the other options available. The main benefit that you're getting here essentially is obviously, last but not least, this is running Oxygen OS 13.1 on top of Android 13. And now that means obviously the ability of logging into your OPPO device, customizing your entire experience from wallpapers, display brightness, all of the different configurations that you want, applications, battery options, and of course, we still have the performance mode that's built in here under more settings, and you're able to turn that on, and that'll give you the ability of using the full potential of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which I really love about it is the fact that you're getting somewhat of a, not necessarily a throttled experience, but essentially, even though you don't turn it on, if you've never even looked at it, the device runs very, very fast, very, very smooth, and again, one of the big things, obviously, because this is a Chinese edition, we don't have an integration with Google services, which means you're able to download and install Google Play Store, but we don't have the ability of launching the Assistant or doing maybe, let's say, Nearby Share. But again, this is something to keep in mind. You're getting a photography king when it comes down to this device. The last thing I do want to mention is that the RAM that we have here is an LPDDR5X, and the storage is the UFS 4.0, supported with that USB 3.1 USB-C on the bottom. So that covers all of the specifications, all the different variants, all the different experiences that you're getting in there. Let's start talking about cameras and what can we do with this phone. First and foremost, we have a whole bunch of different modes. We obviously have night mode that's separate, video mode that obviously gives us the ability of shooting with Dolby Vision. 4K 60 frames per second is going to be the best. We do not have 8K. Although I personally don't think 8K is really needed when you're able to shoot this beautiful footage. And I'm going to share with you guys a whole bunch of different footage. We have the ability of jumping into portrait mode between 1 and 3x. And one thing to mention is those are two separate lenses. We're jumping in between the main camera sensor and the 3x camera sensor. That's the telephoto, and that's what we're using there. The other thing obviously is we have the Hasselblad Pro mode, panorama, movie, slow motion, time lapse, long exposure, dual view video, stickers, AI ID photo, of course, text scanner, and of course the expand mode, which is also very, very nice. I'm going to actually share with you guys a quick sample of the front-facing and the rear-facing camera on the actual device from Malaga as I was walking out from the Alhambra castle in the south of Spain.
Normally I do this video at my house, and I'm showcasing definitely the video and the audio capabilities of the brand new, well, you guys know the device. But we're actually at a very unique experience here in, well, actually it's not in Malaga, but it's in La Alhambra in Spain, and it is an amazing castle right there. You guys are going to see a lot more pictures from that. But this should be a pretty good example of what the audio and video is with stabilization as I'm walking with the brand new Find X6 Pro. Now we're shooting the main sensor on the back. I do apologize for the bouncing. I didn't want to turn on stabilization because that drops the video to 1080p. But the main example here is that we're using the IMX989 to shoot this video. This is going to be the best sensor in, as far as just as the main sensor. They're really changing the philosophy of how you look at the cameras here. The ultra wide and the telephoto lens are both 50 megapixel cameras, and that's going to be kind of giving you the experience where it's not just one main camera.
Now, as you saw there, the stabilization was absolutely on point. That's one of the biggest things that we want to keep in mind here. For vlogging, to use the actual main cameras on the back is going to give you the best experience. And the audio processing that we got in there, even though there was a lot of people around me, there was a lot of other YouTubers as well with me, we had some great experiences there. So before we get into the in-depth camera experience there, I want to show you guys real quick the audio experience as far as the stereo speakers that we have in here. Volume 100%, of course we do have Dolby configuration. We're playing our favorite song on the channel, Alex Scrindo Jumbo by NCS Release.
Jack it up.
Definitely one of the clearest, bassiest. It does actually have some nice bass into it. And of course, it's playing across both the right and left side. The best experience is going to be when you're holding your phone in this manner so that the sound can actually bounce against your arms or your palms and actually come straight at you. Of course, we do have Bluetooth 5.3, so you're going to be able to enjoy using any kind of your Bluetooth earbuds. I've been using them actually with the OnePlus Buds Pro 2 that just came out not that long ago, and they've been working absolutely fantastic. Supporting LHDC, as you can imagine, since this is technically very much a sister device to some of the other devices from OnePlus. And of course, it plays great audio on there. There's not going to be any problems. Now, let's talk about the camera. Now, let's talk about the gaming experience, because I feel like this is something that is also important to talk about, even though we're talking about this is a great device for all of the things that you can do when it comes down to obviously to photography. From a gaming experience, this is obviously going to be running some of the best experiences as well. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 16 gigs of LPDDR5X, USB 3.1, but essentially we have UFS 4.0 for internal storage. Means that this device is actually going to run like a king, and there's a whole bunch of different options, an updated menu here for what we get from a gaming experience. We have the ability of seeing not only the frame rate, but also the percentage of the battery itself, of course, and of course the basically the performance overall, Wi-Fi. You can customize the different options in here, and that mode is called actually Champion mode. Once you turn that on, it actually turns on automatic a lot of the options that we have in here. You turn that on in there, and of course, now your device is going to give you the best experience. So we'll go ahead and say claimable. We'll go ahead and say close that up. And of course, we can jump back into the main system. One thing to mention as far as gaming and what we get in here under audio and graphics, you'll notice that I'm able to go all the way up to an Ultra MP. Now that's going to be in the low setting, but of course I can go max with very high, and that'll give me a nice experience. But for 90 frames per second gaming on this is definitely going to be one of the best, especially on Call of Duty Mobile. And as you can see here, the display looks absolutely fantastic, how the colors are, high quality graphics, and all of the options that you want. And of course, running in at 120 frames per second all the way to a single frame per second because of that variable refresh rate that we have in here. Let me share with you guys a quick sample of Call of Duty Mobile on the brand new Find X6 Pro.
Enemy taking B.
Enemy contact. Enemy down.
Predator missile awaiting orders.
Targets in sight.
Friendly Predator missile inbound. Predator missile on standby. Friendly Predator missile inbound. Captured B.
There is no question that this device can handle almost anything that we can throw at it. And what I'm talking about it is from daily activity, connectivity here in the US, one of the biggest things that I can definitely say is, although this was not designed to run here, I'm able to pick up 5G connectivity on T-Mobile, and I'm able to actually get pretty decent speeds when it comes down to connectivity on this device. I'm talking 269 megabits down and of course 6.29 up. And one of the biggest benefits that we get in here is of course the ability of using this internationally. Because it's a dual SIM card, you're able to pop in a SIM card when you're traveling and of course get that local SIM experience and still keep your personal experience in there. For me, it runs great. Loading the Google Play services on this device was very simple. You just have to activate it and then sideload a Google Play Store, and for the most part, it runs and installs almost everything. I'm able to get in all my social media accounts. Everything there is absolutely fantastic. The reason why I've been so anxious and I've been wanting to share with you guys my experience from using this device is, although this device is not available internationally right now, this is literally the best that OPPO has to offer. The cameras that we have on the back are absolutely fantastic. And I'm focusing primarily in the back, and I don't want to refer to them as a primary and a secondary where you need to just live with the one camera. No. Every camera has a purpose and it offers it very nicely and very specifically, as I'm showing you guys with all these images that I'm going to be sharing with you guys directly. Again, the experience was very much enhanced by the fact that we were on a special photography tour with OPPO in Malaga, and that gave us the ability of going into basically into canyons and seeing nature experiences, and then switching it over to historical, I would call it basically a historical event or a site, which is La Alhambra, which for me holds a very specific meaning because it actually holds a lot of Muslim architecture and a lot of historic memory around the Mediterranean. I am actually from the Mediterranean, so to me this spoke very loudly. And the biggest thing about this is the way you're able to use the cameras. That 3x lens on the back is absolutely one of the best cameras for photography when it comes down to that bokeh, and you're not able to jump in very close. Typically when you get a lens that has a telephoto camera in there or a device that has one, you typically don't get the same experience with the telephoto as you get with the primary lens. Your primary is always going to be the best, but here really it is such a flexible device. From the ultra-wide to the telephoto all the way down to the primary lens, you're definitely going to get different styles of shooting, but you're also getting great photography across the three experiences with a well-balanced color experience all across. Hasselblad technology that's been put in here in optimizations with filters, and of course the Pro mode enables us to dial in that experience even more, especially when you're trying to do portrait photography. That natural bokeh from that 1-inch sensor is absolutely fantastic, but there's also that extra benefit of having a telephoto lens that can also provide very similar experiences because it's able to jump in further or closer, and of course working with your subject, you're able to get even better images. For me, from video to still photography, this device has not disappointed. The one thing I will probably say is I will really hope that OPPO puts in a little bit more enhancement into that front-facing experience to give us better photography on the front. A lot of us now know, obviously, that using your device to shoot content is going to really rely heavily on your front-facing camera, and this one actually performs well. I just wish we had 4K recording on this to kind of mirror a little bit when you're jumping in from the back lens and you jump to the front. You don't have to drop in the resolution to get that experience. Otherwise, really, everything about this device screams quality, screams, not only just improvements, but like a leap forward in technology. The Find X5 Pro from last year, using the Mars Silicon X, showed us what OPPO can do and what they're able to do with low-light photography and low-light content. Utilizing the Mars Silicon X and the ability of using low-light photography in situations where there's not an abundance of light is always going to give you that experience. And that's what was giving me the little bit of chills when I was taking those pictures. It's because every time I was taking a picture, I almost felt like I didn't even have to look at it and I knew it was going to be great. Now, the big thing I will probably say is right now it's just not available internationally. It's only available in China. I hope that at some point this becomes an international release and we're able to talk a little bit more about it. The Find X6 Pro is by far the best that they've ever put. And although in the past we've seen them experiment in the Find X series, especially the Find X5 Pro, the Find X3 Pro, they kind of kept a very similar experience. And then when we look over to the Find X2 there, that's where last time we saw the vegan leather, and that's really where I got some of those vibes in there. And I was really excited that they were able to bring that design back. This is definitely one of my biggest recommendations. If you're looking to what OPPO has to offer in 2023, this is literally where we need to look at. And this is literally now the standard, or for me at least, one of the big standards on the market. That 1-inch sensor, the IMX989, is coming in full force for 2023. And I'm very happy to see that it is running on the Find X3, well, the Find X6 Pro. So Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of this device? There's been a lot of rumors, leaks, and so on talked about it, but till you use this device, it's very hard to explain it and to just share that. All I want to say is I want you to read the excitement in my face and in my voice. And I hope that you can leverage that and understand why I am very excited about this device and why I would love for you guys to check it out as well. This is TK. Thank you very much to OPPO for providing flight and hotel in Malaga, as well as a unit to be able to test out during my trip in MWC, as well as covering my MWC coverage as well. And of course, providing me this unit now to be able to share with you guys my thoughts and opinions of using this device. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and comment on this video so that I know exactly what you'd like me to focus on, especially with this amazing new device from OPPO. I'll see you in the next one.